Hello, this is Bonnie Dean from Chief Left Hand Knits. I'm going to be demonstrating in this tutorial the tubular bind off. This bind off is used in my hemp and rice hat coming out soon. And this portion of the tutorial shows the setup. There has to be either 2 or 4 rounds of setup in order to be able to have enough double knitted fabric to do a Kitchner bind off. So the amount of stitches here will be the end of one round, and then there'll be the alternate technique for the stitches demonstrated over here. So on this portion we will be knitting as normal, and then with yarn in front. This purl stitch will be slipped purlwise with yarn in front. The yarn is then put in the back. The next stitch is knitted. The yarn is placed in the front. This is slipped purlwise. The yarn is for the normal knit stitch. The next stitch is knitted. And with yarn in front, the last stitch of this round is slipped purlwise. The end of round marker is slipped, and then we are going to be slipping the knit stitches and purling the purl stitches. In order for the yarn to not go in front of this knit stitch, the yarn is in back. The knit stitch is slipped purlwise. The yarn is put to the front to purl. And that stitch is purled. Yarn in back. The knit stitch is slipped knit purlwise. Yarn in front. That purl stitch is purled. The object of this is to have nothing impeding the integrity of the column of the knit stitches, either on the front or the back. If you have floats over your knitted columns, you've made a mistake. So you can see here that these knitted columns are intact, and on the back side the knitted columns are intact without yarn floats going over them. This portion of the tubular bind off shows the putting of the knit stitches on the front needle, the purl stitches on the back needle, knit stitch front needle. All stitches are slipped purlwise. This is the purl stitch on the back needle. And this portion demonstrates that you not only have a 1x1 rib below, but also double knitted fabric. In this case, I've done 4 rounds of the setup, and so this is the double knitted portion that then is going to be Kitchnered at the top. This next section shows Kitchner in the round for tubular cast off finish, bind off finish. And I have placed preliminarily the double stitted niches growing out of the knit 1 purl 1 ribbing on 2 circular needles, knit stitches front, purl stitches on the back circular needle. And this will start out the same way as any Kitchner, by going through the first knit stitch as if to knit. And then normally you would take this off, but I am going to place this on the needle as such. The second part would be to go through the knit stitch purlwise to anchor it. And then you go to the back needle. Normal Kitchner would be to go through the needle from right to left as if to purl, slip it off. Instead, we are going to put that stitch on the needle as in that manner. Snug it up. I'm going to get rid of these needles in the back, and we're just going to proceed normally without further anchoring. So this is going to be knitted off and then go through purlwise, leave that stitch on. We're going to purl this back stitch off, and then to anchor the next stitch we're going to go through knitwise and snug it up. We're going to knit this stitch off in the front, purl the next one on, purl the back stitch off, and leave this one on knitwise, and so forth all the way around. This last section is to just summarize what I have done. In order to complete a tubular bind off, I have worked in the round 4 rounds of double knitting with completion of knit 1, then slip 1 purlwise with yarn in front, repeating all the way around, and then the next round slip 1 purlwise with yarn in back and purl 1, repeating all around, and alternating those 2 rows, repeating those 2 rounds. Next, I have placed all the knit stitches on a circular needle and all the purl stitches on a back circular needle in order to work this as a 2 needle in the round tubular bind off instead of a 1 needle knit 1 purl 1 ribbing Kitchner stitch. The result is the same. It is a beautiful rounded bind off where all the knit columns are in continuity with no yarns placed over on both sides. I forgot to video me going from the edge this way, so I will come back the other way to demonstrate the technique of weaving in ends in ribbing. And that can be cut off very close, stretched and cut off very close. Happy knitting!